Hey, this is the Bunmom Life with me, Jessie, and my 4 bunnies, Roo, Linus, Timo, and Kumo. Come and join us for stories about our journey as a bunny family. Let's hop to it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our little Bunmom Life Cafe. I have my little mug of tea, I have the bunbuns on our little bunny spy cam, and I'm ready to get started. I am so excited to be back here with all of you. Very sorry, always, for the delay in our episodes being released. There's always something that comes up. Last time we ended off with part 1 of Roo and Kumo's bonding story, and today we're going to pick up from where we left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger with a bun fight that resulted in Roo and Kumo needing to be separated after having already been together, fully bonded, for 5 days. And Bundad going to emergency. Thankfully, we're all good. Nobody and no buns were seriously harmed. Now, in the midst of preparing for this episode, if you follow the stories on our Little Loppy Roo account on Instagram, you may already know that Roo and Kumo recently went for their biannual vet checkup. And that's where we saw that both of them needed dental procedures done. Despite these procedures being relatively minor, since we do our checkups quite regularly, and thankfully things usually get caught early, their surgeries ended up being not too intensive or too invasive. But as bun parents, we still worried a ton. We'll be sharing more about this later on. And amazing news, we have reached the 1-year anniversary of this podcast being launched. It passed this weekend. How crazy is that? And to make our 1-year anniversary episode a little more special, which is going to be the episode coming up after this one, we are going to answer some of your questions. So if you haven't already, you can feel free to submit questions to us. You can also submit more than one if you're curious about more than one thing. Ask us anything, and with whatever time we have, we'll try to answer as many of the questions as possible. So be sure to send us a DM or send us an email with your question so that you might be featured in our next episode. All right, let's hop right into part 2 of our bonding experience, shall we? So we were pretty bummed out that we had to separate Roo and Kumo after they were so nicely bonded for 5 days. Bonding is such a roller coaster ride of emotions and ups and downs, and sometimes it feels so unpredictable. If only we could understand what was inside their heads and know what they're thinking. At that time, we weren't sure if their fight broke their bond, and we weren't sure if, when we started again, if we had to be starting the bonding from zero. Would they remember that fight? Would they hold this grudge against each other and make it really difficult to have them together in the same space again? We didn't even know exactly how we would restart. Do we go back to the same bonding spot that we used initially? Do we change it to another fully neutral area? There were so many questions and so many uncertainties. And this is something we encountered so often when bonding didn't seem to be going exactly as we hoped. We were never sure what our next steps should be. It was hard to make a decision on what to do, knowing that this next decision could really impact which direction the bonding would go. So it always felt so tricky and felt like we had to take in all the details we knew and just make the most educated guess and choice that we could about next steps. So if you're in that same situation, making a decision for your bunnies in their bonding and you're not 100% sure if it's the right next step or not, you are not alone in those sentiments. We didn't always feel confident in our decisions. We tried to read the bunbuns as much as we could and determine if they were ready based on what we could see and based on instinct. We just did our best. Bonding is hard. So at this moment in our story, we had Kumo and Roo separated with a fence down the middle of our hallway on the 3rd floor. So Roo had the bedroom, the 2nd bathroom, half the hallway, and Kumo had the 2 studio rooms and the other half of the hallway. And we let them stay like that over the next couple of days and nights. Admittedly, it was really tough not having them able to free roam everywhere. Even though they both still had plenty of space, I still felt guilty about them not being able to roam completely. I also felt guilty that I couldn't be in both of their presences on the same side of the fence at the same time. When I was with Roo, I would feel guilty that I wasn't spending time with Kumo. And then when I was with Kumo, I was feeling guilty about not spending time with Roo. And I just hated the fence so much. A few days later, we decided to try putting them in the same space together again. We decided to use our little library corner or cozy corner and fenced up around that area. It was still a pretty big space, and we placed their litter boxes right in there. We also tried sprinkling forage and hay all around for them. When they were in the space together, they wouldn't fight, but we saw that both of them were pretty cautious around each other. They clearly still remembered the disagreement that they had before, and if one came a little too close to the other, they would be on high alert, watching every one of their next steps. They would also be so comfortable to lay down near each other and to fully flop and sleep, which is a sign of trust. And sometimes they even groomed one another. But despite all of these positive behaviors, we still saw that there were these delicate times and moments because they were still pretty careful around each other, as though they were worried that the other would suddenly strike. We did a couple of dates that were like this, and then we would separate them again because we wanted to ease them back into being each other's presence and to really end off on positive notes so that they would realize, oh, okay, nothing's happening. They're not trying to pick a fight with me. They're not trying to kill me. We're good. That was good. And so hopefully the next time would be even better. Now, it was kind of a tricky period of time because some of you already know this. We moved into a home that was newly built. And one of the things that we had to work around was that since it's a new build, we still had contractors coming in once in a while to fix things here and there. And during this specific period of time of trying to rebond Roo and Kumo, the contractors needed to come and do some work on our stairs. This meant that we couldn't have the bunbuns set up the way that they were when they were separated because there were fences in the hallway and blocking the stairs, and the contractors needed that fully accessible. So we decided to temporarily move them into my studio space. We divided the whole room in half with the fences and put one bunny on each side. And thankfully, they both still had lots of room to run around. And during this time, we would also open up the little door that's part of one of the fences and allow them to run into each other's sides so that they could also have more space to roam and explore. And then we'd closely monitor their interactions at this time. After doing this and seeing them behaving really well around each other in the studio, we decided to just turn it into their next bonding area. So as you can see, our rebonding was a little all over the place, and we were just really going with the flow. With careful monitoring and observations, we'd then tweak and adjust or move to the next steps accordingly. What we began to learn and to realize was that little Cloud Kumo, with his super high energy, super bubbly self, would constantly want Roo's attention and would nag her incessantly for it. Roo, at this point being 4 years old and having grown up in our presence and with lots of space all the time, she's really calmed down and settled down a lot compared to in the earlier years. And Kumo, because everything is so new to him, his incessant need for attention would sometimes annoy her. And we believe that this would be what caused those little spats to happen. Another wonderful bun mom who we adore, and she's a listener of this podcast, her name is Sherry. She shared her own experience with her 2 buns with us through email. And this really gave me that moment. Because all along, these were my suspicions, but I wasn't entirely sure. And when Sherry shared her experience, it made me realize that our buns are not the only ones with this dynamic. With her 2 buns, she also has one who's very calm, and she has her other bun who's always asking, requesting for grooms and love and affection, and sometimes gets on the nerve of the other bunny, and they'll get into a little spat. But then immediately after, once they've cooled down, they're totally okay and snuggling again, which is exactly like the dynamic of Roo and Kumo. See, this is one of the reasons why we love reading all your responses to our episodes. When you share your experiences with us, it really helps us too. There have been so many times that I've learned new things or things that I've been feeling or sensing were validated, all because I read your messages. So thank you to all of you who have been submitting them to us. So knowing this dynamic between Roo and Kumo helps us to understand their relationship more, but there isn't much that we can really do about that. We can't stop Little Cloud from pestering Roo. We can't stop Roo from getting fed up. And with time, we just hope that Roo would develop more patience for Little Cloud, and that with time, Kumo would also settle down in his excitement a little bit more and be a little less in your face to Roo. I think he's just so excited to have a big sister to be with all the time. During this rebonding process, sometimes we would see when Roo would start to reach the end of her patience and Kumo was not letting up on his nagging. So we would try to distract Kumo with treats, with food, with pellets, and give Roo pets to calm her down. We saw this kind of dynamic more during this rebonding period, but much less now. But it goes to show that even with a bonded pair, they may still get into little spats every once in a while when one of them annoys the other too much. But then they'll reconcile, they'll become buddy-buddy again shortly after. Knowing this was a big relief for us because it lessened the confusion that we had surrounding their bond and the question of whether their bond was broken or not during one of these little spats. They're not. Literally just a little disagreement. But it did keep us on edge for quite a while. So after they did so well together in the studio space, we decided to move them back down to our main gathering level without any fences. They could free roam the entire floor, and everything went very smoothly. The two of them were just fine together. Day by day, their cautiousness towards each other lessened, and they became more and more comfortable in each other's presence again. And we still see sweet little Kumo asking Roo constantly for her attention, but she appears to have developed more patience for him now. He's also actually settled down a little bit and doesn't nag her as aggressively. So, everything was good, right? No more drama llama, right? Not quite. After a solid few weeks of them being together again, weeks, I'm saying weeks, not days this time. Literally weeks of them being bonded, being together 24/7, fully free roaming without any issues. That was when we started to look at rearranging our space on the third floor. We had always planned for their litter box on the third floor to be in our bedroom. At this time, it was either in our studio or sometimes we move it to the hallway. We really like them close by when we sleep and being able to hear them munching on their hay. And they've always liked sleeping in the bed with us, which we adore and really have been missing. So we thought it'd be good to have their litter box in there with us. And we did another deep clean of the space. We deep cleaned the curtains as well and even moved the curtains up onto the ledge of the window so that they couldn't get access to the curtains. Which, if you heard in our previous episode, was a trigger for Roo's territorialness. And then we decided to run a little test. We removed the gates to our bedroom. We placed their litter box inside our room. They both came in, saw the litter box. Kumo jumped in to munch on hay right away. And Roo was running around, sniffing everything, running into the master bathroom. She was exploring again. And at a quick glance, it seems like nothing was wrong. But I have pretty good instincts with Roo and know her tells really well. And I saw that she went up to the litter box. She saw Kumo was in there. Then she would run out of the bedroom into the hallway and sit there. And that, to me, was odd. I already started to have a feeling she wasn't pleased. And as Kumo kept staying in the litter box, eating his hay, I noticed that Roo didn't really come back into the bedroom very much, which, again, surprised me and gave me a little bit of a flag because normally the bedroom is one of her favorite spaces to be in. So normally, if there's access to the bedroom, she's in the bedroom. So I kind of had an inkling that she wasn't happy. That she wasn't happy with Kumo being in there. So shortly after, I led Kumo out of the bedroom, moved their litter box back into its usual spot, and closed off the bedroom with fences. Then I watched the two of them, and nothing happened for the rest of the day. But it seems that Roo was definitely holding a little bit of a grudge, maybe a little bit of resentment, and was frustrated that Kumo had been in the bedroom, had been in her bedroom. And so that night, when he was his usual hyper self, demanding Roo's attention, Roo's capacity for patience was less than usual. She was already a bit irritated with him. Then, in the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by commotion downstairs, and I knew immediately what happened. I flew out of bed, ran downstairs, I rushed to the bunnies, and immediately snatched Kumo up. Sure enough, they were fighting. And despite trying to get them to calm down and put them together again, they would still try to get into a fight. So, much to our immense disappointment and dismay, we had to separate them. Again. Oh, the stress! Retelling this story reminds me of how stressful those moments were. And some of you are probably thinking, well, why did you let them into the bedroom again? And that was a question that ran through my head over and over again as we dealt with them being separated once more. Definitely a lot of regrets there. We really thought that after weeks of being bonded without issues, that it would definitely be okay. But no, Roo was still feeling very territorial of the bedroom. This time, though, we didn't try rebonding from scratch. We just let them have their separate alone time for a couple of days. And it seemed to actually help quite a bit. Without Kumo constantly requesting for Roo's attention, Roo was able to be a little bit more at ease and settle down. And after a few days, we just put them together again on our gathering level without starting off in a small space, and they were fine once more. So sometimes distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? Maybe Queen Roo just needs her self-care alone time once in a while. That's fair. Rest assured, these two bunbuns will not be accessing our bedroom in a very, very long time, if ever. Maybe when we need a new mattress. We've already replaced the curtains at this point, so it might work once our mattress is brand new too. Then that means none of the items in that room would have been from our old condo and would have had Roo's smell all over it. But that's not going to happen anytime soon since our mattress is functioning perfectly fine. As I mentioned previously, what we've learned from this whole experience is that bonded pairs still get into spats and bickers once in a while. They can still get on each other's nerves, they still push each other over the edge, but thankfully in this case, these two just needed some alone time and then they were able to come back together peacefully. And again, we believe that as time passes and Kumo settles in here even more and things are less new to him, he'll just be less hyper about everything. And as he chills out with Roo, he won't push her as much. And then Roo won't freak out on him. Isn't it funny how much like us these fur babies are? It's adorable and also stressful. Lately, we've actually been seeing Kumo grooming Roo much, much more than before. And this is because of Roo's ulcers. So I already shared this at the beginning, and we shared the stories over on our Little Loppy Roo account that these two needed their teeth to be filed down. This is one of the downsides to both of their breeds, Holland Lops like Roo and Lionheads like Kumo. They're bred to look the way that they do, which results in issues with the structure of their skull and their jaw, and that often leads to dental diseases and problems. Our vet mentioned that it's pretty uncommon to find a loppy-eared bunny with a clean bill of health after the age of 3. So this is just a friendly reminder, friends, to get your sweet little bunbuns checked regularly and checked frequently, especially as they get older and older, in order to stay on top of these issues. They likely are not going to be preventable, but they can be maintained with relatively minor procedures if they're caught early enough. Even with the right bunny diet, meaning 24/7 access to hay and lots of toys to chew on, these particular breeds are still prone to dental problems. So, while Roo and Kumo were undergoing dental surgery, they were put on anesthesia. And when bunnies go under anesthesia, their eyes naturally stay open and don't close. This means that they do dry out, they're very prone to drying out, and even with the vet and the techs doing their best to hydrate those eyes with drops throughout the entire procedure, depending on the bunny, they can still develop ulcers. Timo was really prone to this, and it looks like little Roo is too. Little Cloud, however, has had no issues with ulcers despite having 2 dental procedures done during his time with us. So it really just depends on the bunny. It has taken a while for Roo's eyes to heal. Those ulcers are stubborn. At the time of recording this episode, we are reaching the 3rd week of treating these ulcers. Typically, ulcers should heal in a few days, but sometimes they can take a lot longer, and some bunnies may chronically be infected with them. Since Roo's eyes have been bothering her, she keeps her eyes closed most of the time. And Kumo, sweet little Cloud, noticed and started to groom her eyes very often. And I must say, from what we've observed, this has really helped their bond so much more. They snuggle closely a lot more often now. Before, they would have times where they lay together and snuggled together, and they'd also have almost equal amounts of time where they slept separately in their own little spots. And they still do that, have their separate sleeping times, but we see them together more often than not now. And we see Kumo grooming Roo much more than before. And if you remember from our previous episodes, Queen Roo is very pleased with being pampered. It goes a long way with gaining her affections. It's really been very sweet seeing how little Kumo tends to Roo. If you'd like to hear more about Roo and Kumo's dental procedures, about Roo's eye ulcers and how we're treating them, and what we're doing since they've been so stubborn, stay tuned. We will be sharing in a future episode in detail about these procedures. And that's it for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed listening to us wrap up Roo and Kumo's bonding journey. And as usual, we'd love to hear your response to this episode. So please do feel free to send us a message on Instagram or leave a comment on the episode post or send us an email. And one more time before we say goodbye, I just wanted to remind everyone that if you'd like to submit a question to us asking us anything about our bun family, you can do so through sending us a DM or an email on either one of our Instagram accounts, and we'll be sure to try to include your question in our next episode. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are, and know that you're loved and cherished always. Our bunbuns send you lots of boops. Bye! Hey, we're back. Sort of. Just popping in to say a friendly reminder that we are not licensed professionals here on the Bunmom Life podcast. Everything that we've shared is just our own personal stories and experiences. So if you have any questions or concerns or need any advice about your bunny, please do consult a professional or an exotic vet. All right, we'll see you next time.